Hey guys, welcome to the Kashif Boothe podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, what they've learned, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Sinitta. I have known Sinitta for, I think, almost 3 years because I remember when we met and that was late
Yes.
2018. But I think we had known of each other for a
Chubba
while.
for I'd been following
Yeah.
socially, quietly, socially stalking you.
Okay, I didn't know that. So yeah, but I mean, it's good because I think yeah, because you knew Abby, isn't it? And Abby was in my series, Nate and Jamie, and
Yeah,
Imposter during
yeah.
that
So
time.
I had I met Abby. I had basically won a British Urban Film Festival award for a script that I wrote called Sarah White and the Seven Socialites, and I cast Abby as one of the characters, which was kind of like Azalea Banks meets Kanye West. You could only imagine what that sounded like. And she smashed it. Like on the live performance, everyone was just crying, and even like the actors just trying to stay kind of in role, and we're just all crying but trying to like keep a straight face at the same time. Bless her, she handled it really, really well.
I'm not surprised. Abby's an amazing actress. I keep saying you need to get back into acting, but I feel like she's more
Mm,
in her presenting radio stuff now anyway. But yeah,
yeah,
but thanks for coming on the show. And so yeah, I just want to jump into the questions really. So
cool.
how did you get started? Like what's your history? How did you get to where you are now?
God. Oh God. It's mad because when you sent me these questions last night, I found myself doing this thing while I was rehearsing and speaking to the mirror. And I was like, I'm gonna do all of this and say all of this, and then it's just gonna go out of my head and I'm just gonna say what happened. So like 2008 I graduated from university and I had all of these dreams to pursue a career in film and TV, and it was difficult. I kind of gave myself a period of time where I was gonna try just to get into the industry. I did a lot of internships. I worked on a lot of film shoots. A lot of that stuff was unpaid because in those days, as you can imagine, it's not what it is now. And I kind of built up my experiences, but still wasn't kind of used to this kind of freelance so like life. I'm just not for that. Like I was living by myself. I had bills to pay. It just wasn't a priority for me to do things if money wasn't an incentive. And I got to a certain point where I was like, I'm going to see how this goes, and if it doesn't work, then I'm going to make my first short film. So what happened was I did loads of freelancing. I worked on loads of sets, and then I had a part-time job that managed my lifestyle, and then I ended up making a short film called Home Sweet Home, and it was like my first short film, and I produced it, I wrote it, I directed it, and then that got selected at Portobello Film Festival as and nominated for Best Newcomer. And after that, I still kind of pursued this like, I need to be on set, I need to be on set. And I had the opportunity to work on massive feature films like Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Legend with Tom Hardy, Mr. Holmes, and Urban Hymn with Letitia Wright. And I'm working on these film sets and I'm doing these longer hours, and my role's not important. So I'm like a production assistant. And I'm just like, this is a bit dead. But on one of those sets, I met someone and I'd gotten the job through some agency work. And he was just astonished at the fact that I had to get agency work to get on set.
Mhm.
And he was just like, this industry isn't for people like you. And
Wait, he
it's
actually
like,
said
he actually said that.
that.
And I wasn't offended. I kind of got it. I had this moment, this surreal moment where I'm on my lunch doing this 11-hour shift and I'm looking around and there's like a bag full of men. There's 3 women. I'm the only woman of color on that set. And I was like, you know what? My 9 to 5 pays me more for less hours. What am I doing? Like,
Mhm.
and I remember I'd worked on and my best friend has always said to me, and my mum as well, my mum's like one of my biggest supporters, is like, you should be writing. Why aren't you writing? And I've always written, but I've always been afraid to share it. So after like my short film, I made a second short film called Charlie and Me, wrote, produced that, edited that, had like a fantastic cast, tried to limit it, one location, 2 characters and stuff. I then went on to make a short film called It's Cindy and Beep, where that went on to, I submitted it to Virgin Media Shorts. While I was still doing this set thing. But then after that last kind of, this industry isn't for people like you, it was like, you know what, he's right. Like, let me just focus on what I'm good at. And you know what? The moment I actually focused on my writing, things started happening very quickly. So I got shortlisted for this Samsung launching people competition, which was to
I remember
work with Idris Elba. This was a few years ago. And I got so gassed because I got a call for it, and I was like at work, and I was like, oh, I'm just it's family emergency, just got to take the call. I was literally in my car at this point. It's hot. And where I worked at the time was like on a motorway, and I'm literally in my car. The sun is beaming on my face. The heat is just, oh my God. And like, I was having like a 45-minute interview for this potential role, and I was just so desperate for it. But I never got it, which was fine. But then after that, I then applied to Film London for Film London's London Calling Scheme. Now, at the time, because I live in East London, with East London, it's a separate segment, but it's called the Eastern Edge Film Fund. And I wrote a script called Happy Ever After, and it was a kind of take on the princess and the frog, but she meets the frog and he's a bit of a jerk, and she plots to turn him back into a frog. And it got shortlisted, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, winning. And got shortlisted. I had to pitch to try and get it, and then I didn't get it. And it's funny because that's when I met Christian, because Christian, my producer buddy, pal and friend, dear friend, he's like a brother to me. We met with each other, and I remember the time came for us to find out whether we got it or not. And in that moment, it is that kind of competitive, like we're in a room and me and him are the only two black people in the group.
I've been there.
So it's like, either you're gonna get it or I'm gonna get it. But if you don't get it, if I don't get it, you better get it. It was like, yeah. And I remember I didn't get it. And I remember when I didn't get it again, you know, with this industry, so much rejection. And I was so upset. And I was in the middle of delivering an employability session and had to get into film and TV. And then I've had to come out to take this call, and they're like, oh yeah, we've chosen not to give it to you. And I swear, the desperation to want to cry, but I couldn't cry, was just so funny. You know, my eyes were just like, I was like, oh, thanks for the opportunity, you know, blah, 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 trying to be humble about it. And I was just livid. And then I think the following day, like, Christian messaged me on Twitter and was like, did you get it? And I was like, no, did you get it? And he was like, no. And I was like, what? And that's how that relationship started. So while me and him were kind of getting to know each other and figure out, could we actually work with each other, I then went on to write Sarah White and the Seven Socialites, and I submitted that to the British Urban Film Festival, and then completely forgot about it, and then got tagged in some Facebook post about, you know, she's been nominated and she's one of the 3 writers that's going to win an award. I'm like, what? Oh my God.
That's the best thing. You submit to something and you forget, and you're like, yes. Oh, what?
Literally tag and then I'm Googling myself, and I'm like, oh my God, stuff's coming up. What's going on? And I was just so, I've seen the British Urban Film Festival for years. What Claire and Emmanuel do in terms of for Black talent is just fantastic. But I've watched them for years, never submitted anything just out of fear. Like, is it urban enough? Is it British enough? Is it all of this? And Sarah White and the Seven Socialites, as you can tell, I've got an obsession with fairy tales, was kind of a modern day take on what the world is like now, which is mad to think that I wrote this script like 3 or 4 years ago. And it's just about Sarah White's the most popular socialite, and then the other socialites plot to take her down. And it was very American. I was inspired by Scream Queens, produced by Ryan Murphy, because I just love Ryan Murphy. But I wrote, and it was very American. So I was like, oh my God, they've picked me. And we had to do a live script read, and it was at the BBC, the BT Tower in central London. So we was just gassed. And then like the awards ceremony, we met all of these people, and like my husband, bless him, like I'm so shy, like I just don't, it's something that I'm working on, but I'm just so reserved. So it's like we saw Ashley Walters, and he's like, Mr. Walters, can you come over and take a picture of my award-winning wife? And oh, it was so funny. And all these different, and David Harewood, like that was just like, oh my God, like I got to take, like I was just in my element. And that's when stuff really started happening. So I submitted that, got that award, but I wasn't satisfied. So I wrote this script called Bosch. And Bosch was based on my experiences being a Black woman, growing up in East London and going to an all-girls Catholic school in the 90s. And I submitted that again to the British Urban Film Festival. At that time, I just started a job teaching media. I was planning my wedding, and me and Christian was like, send me all of your scripts and I'm just gonna make one. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, like I want to make something, like I love your writing. I sent him a bag load of scripts. So at the same time, I sent him this script called The Morning After Etiquette. And then after that, it's just things happened quick. So submitted Bosch, got nominated, selected, and won again at the British Urban Film Festival. And I was like, now this is the win, isn't it? Because it's UK, it's British, it's anyone who reads that will get the culture, they'll understand. And then at the same time, I'd won that. Me and Christian had produced our first short film, The Morning After Etiquette. And then I had submitted it to, I was going away, and I'd submitted it to BBC Writers Room, and I'm like, this is going to be the script that can just get me in. So I was traveling at the time. I think I went Abu Dhabi, Tanzania, and I was on my way back. And then I got the rejection email when I was in Abu Dhabi to say, it's been like long listed, but sorry, you didn't get through. And they left some cool notes, but kind of not anything I didn't know. And I was like, okay, cool. But I was upset, and I was like, you know, this was a good script, and this deserved a chance, and it's London, and it's East London. It's basically now, having never watched Derry Girls, and I only watched Derry Girls like about 6 months ago. It's like a black Derry Girls, but at the time I never knew that. Yeah. And then I came back, and then my mum was like, I don't know what you're talking about it for. You always said when you wrote that script it was for Channel 4. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I did say that. This is for Channel 4. This is for Channel 4. And then I submitted to 4 Screenwriting, and I swear to God, that's when my life, literally everything changed like that. Submitted to 4 Screenwriting, got on. At that time, it was like 1,500 people. I was one of the 10 that got on. No, one of the 12 that got on. Everyone, minus maybe 6 people, had agents, but no one else. So a lot of people were saying to me, like, you got on based on your talent because it's a really competitive course. And I got on first time applying. Wow. Again, something I had seen for years, but been too afraid to apply for. I don't know where this imposter syndrome comes from, but that's what happened. And then I did 4 Screenwriting, and after 4 Screenwriting, we had like a live script read. I wrote a script called Beep Happy Endings, and that's just, it's kind of like a UK Insecure, with 3 women of colour, and just how they're navigating through life in their 30s. And it's kind of like a middle finger up to the world, saying that women need to have it all by the time they're 30, and if they don't, they're a write-off. That's kind of what was the inspiration behind it, with like tints of Sex and the City. And after that, we had like a script read, which was fantastic, and this massive networking event where everyone met all these agents and all these production companies. It was so overwhelming, but fantastic. And then after that, I got onto 4 Stories, which is another scheme by Channel 4, where you write a script, and that gets, if it gets selected, that will go on Channel 4. So that was January 2020 that happened, and I wrote this script called OT, and it was kind of based on a Caribbean man who gets groomed by a drug dealer to be a drug driver. That was inspired by like a true story I'd read, and I just thought it would be cool to kind of do something different, but it didn't get in. I think it was too, I don't know, it just didn't get, it's too much, wasn't it? So, and then I went on my honeymoon, and then COVID happened, and that's when things really happened. So COVID happened, cool, come back from my honeymoon in February. April, my contract of my jobs run out, and I'm just there like consistently writing, but applying for jobs that I hate for the sake of, you know, I need to maintain my lifestyle. And it just wasn't happening. And I was like, wow, these are really testing times. And you know what? I slid in so many producers' DMs shamelessly. So many different producers. I linked and connected with different writers like Delia, Renee, fantastic. Just her support and her encouragement, similar to yourself. It's really hard, and like Tash Filmmaker as well, it's really hard to find people that get you and champion you and want well for you. I found that really difficult. So to come across people like that was fantastic. And I'd kind of contacted a producer, and he actually agreed to like read some of my work and give me some, and he was a BAFTA award-winning producer, and we Zoomed just like how we are now. And he was fantastic, gave me all this advice, and I tweeted out this script called Black Etiquette that I had written, and I tweeted, like took a picture, I was like, yep, it's done. And then he retweeted it, and when he retweeted it, I had people sliding in my DMs for fun. I was like, oh my God.
What? Okay.
Yeah, and then I started sharing it, and then I started still talking to different production companies. And then an opportunity that come up, something that I've been keeping a secret for a really long time, but I've realized now in this reflection of COVID, so I'll speak about this now, that it's really important to share your wins, because if you don't share your wins, how do you progress? How do you understand? And how do you learn? And how do you grow from that? And I'd gotten onto all these kind of different Zooms with different production companies, because obviously George Floyd happened. And then there was this kind of call out for Black and Asian minority writers, and got to be in all these different spaces. But then an opportunity came up, and I got picked to write a show for Channel 4, which is currently in development. So I've been keeping that a secret since July last year. Yeah, you've got an exclusive, because I've just got imposter syndrome. I don't it's that thing when you've worked in this industry for so long. Like, I've shortened my 10-year journey into literally like seconds, but when you've worked in this industry for so long and then you get an opportunity, everyone screams about their wins, and I've never really done that for fear of losing it. You might just get, but I'm like, damn, I've been working on this stuff since July last year, and like, it's been hard and it's been difficult. So basically in July I got offered to work on a show, so it's currently in development. I can't say too much about it yet. When I can, I will tell all. But so I have a show in development at the moment, which is like a comedy drama. The idea is 6 episodes, 30 minutes, but it's in development. It's still in early stages. Obviously, the agenda is for it to get greenlit, and that's why I haven't said anything. So I'm only going to say it when it gets greenlit. But I've realised it's important to celebrate your wins, just to understand and know that journey. Because going from being thrown into having kind of like a full-time job and having money coming in to then actually, no, you're going to focus on your writing whether you like it or not. When I did that, things started happening very quickly. So alongside that, I then got an all-female writers room, which was by Era 50/50, and I think Screen Skills were involved in that. And I met these beautiful women from all different walks of life, and we worked on developing a show together. That's kind of still up in the air, because again, it was just kind of like a scheme for us to meet and meet new writers. And then from there, I've got a writer's room next week. I can't really say too much about that. So it's my first writer's room of this year, but it's for a new show, really early stages. But again, this was all from talking and communicating with people. And when I got my commission for this show that I'm working with on Channel 4, I didn't have an agent. Because after I did 4 screenwriting, after I did 4 stories, I still never had an agent. And everyone I was talking to who I did the course with all had agents, and I was the only one who didn't. And it really was playing on my mind like mad, like, oh my God, I ain't got an agent. And I remember it reminded me of being back in uni again. I remember when I left uni, every May I would get anxiety, because I'd be like, oh, new graduates are coming out, they finished, they're going to steal my job, da, 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 da. And I had that same kind of imposter syndrome again. You've done this for screenwriting 2020 is coming out. It's going to be 12 or 30 new writers, and you're going to get left behind because you couldn't get an agent. And bear in mind, I didn't have an agent, but I was securing meetings with Vertigo Films. I had meetings with Netflix, all off of my own back. I don't even know how I done it. It was some people were emailing, I emailed people, and I had arranged loads of generals, probably more so than some people that were signed who weren't having generals. I had loads of generals, but no agent, and it was just mad to me. And then when I got my commission, there was an agent who I'm with now who was interested in me, but then COVID happened and they couldn't take on any new people. And then she'd said to me in the email, but I've got a feeling you're going to get, she's like, something's coming your way. And when it does, call me. Literally a month later, the commission came through, and I was like, hi, remember me?
Amazing. Honestly, that is amazing. I love hearing that story, because it really just, it's something what I always say to people a lot. Like, you need to, the way how people look at success, and how when you work in the industry like you and I have before, we both have, it's like they tell you this is how you're supposed to get to where you want to be. I remember when I was working on this show on ITV, and they were telling me, okay, you need to be a producer, you need to either go through the production manager route, or you need to go through the script editor route. And it's like, I'm looking at these people in their 50s, and I'm like, I don't want to be in my 50s at that point. you know, but I'm seeing people who are younger than me or just a few years older than me, and they're where I want to be. So that's why I started to make my own stuff. And I feel like that's the same with you. It's like you kept everything kept on taking you back to your writing, like literally everything kept
Yes,
on going back.
yes.
And once you focused on
Yes,
that, that's look where you are now. When I focused on my own stuff, that just helped me as well. It's not always following the
100.
same pattern. And that's
I
what,
always said like I always used to describe my relationship with the film industry as almost abusive, because every time I'd walk away from it, something would pull me back in. But now I've like upped it up, and I'm like, actually, this is like we're in the nightclub. This is what me and Christian use as analogies. So like when we was having conversations early before I got the commission, it was like, okay, we're outside the nightclub, and then Corona happened, and we're like, damn, the bouncers put the rope across, we can't get in. So then when it kind of came through, and I remember they were like really like, Sinitta, are you excited you've got your first commission? And I'm like, is this, it won't feel real until I have that conversation, when we have that Zoom. And then it's like, okay, cool, we're now in the nightclub, like I've taken off my coat and now I'm at the bar, like trying to figure stuff out. But it's been and like you said, one of the things I forgot to mention before is obviously after I did the morning after etiquette, we then made our web series Suffering, obviously, which was, it was that thing of, I really wanted to, again, finding ways to get myself out there, but telling a story about Black love, and that being like a positive story. And even with that, I don't think it got the response I wanted. Like,
I agree, because you know I'm a big fan of yours, your web
yeah.
series. So, yeah, I was
In my
annoyed by some of the losses you got, but that's another
Yeah,
conversation.
and that's the thing, isn't it? In my head, I was like,
Yeah.
it's pretty, it's shot well,
Yeah,
it's about Black love, but it
and who you
hasn't got the
lost to,
views.
I'm just gonna like be quiet, but because yeah.
But then I will say with that, like, again, and that's when I say, like, I studied you a lot, like when you did Nate and Jamie, and when you did not Newlyweds, wait, it's gonna come Imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at what you was doing, where did you put it, who did you reach out to, just from looking at when I googled it, and that's what I mean by politely socially stalking. And
You see, I did the same thing. So like to
yeah,
everybody else, because it's the way how you gonna get.
That's how you. And that's how
exactly.
you learn. And I remember looking at a lot of places that where yours was, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it here. And I remember reaching out to a lot of UK outlets and just getting air pie, like, and it's just like, wow. And I really was upset, because I was like, this is the type of story we don't see enough of. This is the type of content we need to see, like positive stuff. You know, it's not everyday knife crime. It's not everyday guns. And I think when I'd kind of lost hope with it, that's when we had a US streaming service called Black and Sexy TV.
Oh,
and
Mm-hmm.
and they slid into my DMs and was like, yeah, like we've seen it, we like it, we want it on our platform. So I was like,
what?
It's on Black and Sexy TV. I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, see, but again, I don't shout about the wins. Do you see what I mean? I just don't say anything. I need to work on that. And they were like, yeah, we want it. And I was literally Zooming them from, this also happened during COVID. We were Zooming, like it's like 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning their time, 5 o'clock this time. I'm FaceTime, Zooming LA, and we're having long conversations and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's on there for like, I think the next 18 months. So it's probably got another year and a bit. So yeah, it's on Black and Sexy TV, and that felt rewarding, because it sounds very sexy when you're trying to sex up your CV, and then you say, oh yeah, my web series is on a streaming platform, a VOD streaming platform service. It works.
To Numa, like the founder of it, did you speak to Numa?
Yeah.
Like, she's amazing. Like, her film's on Netflix. What is her film called? Oh, it's gonna annoy me, but yeah, and she's doing big things. Like, she's directing a new film with Gabrielle Union, what's going to be on Netflix and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's big. Like, I think this imposter syndrome, I had to get over that. That's why I created my brand page, my Instagram page, what I have. People always are afraid to share whatever they're on, what they want to put online. But for me, I've always used it as, once I found out I was easily Googleable, I just made sure that my brand represented certain things. So yeah, I've got my burner accounts. Nobody needs to know about that, okay? But like, when you put my name in Google, everything pops up. YouTube,
that's how I feel about those short films.
Facebook, everything. So that's how it is. And me doing that, like I always say and I'm going to do a solo episode on this actually, is like, make your online presence your brand. So like, that's how see how people slide in your DMs? It's because you just decided to tweet that script,
Yeah,
and then look what
yeah.
happened. Do you
It's
get
true.
like
It's
you
true.
have to use social media for what it is. Like one of my good friends, like she navigates LinkedIn and Facebook like a boss. Like I can't believe she inspired me. Like literally, she has a great platform for black advertising community because she works in advertising industry. She's created a whole platform. They have events. She works at Spotify now, all because of
It's
how she
amazing.
networks on social media. So you just have to use it for that. And I hope people
Yeah.
listening do that, and
It's
stop
definitely
trying to hold it in. Like
no,
honestly.
it's true. Like when I've had jobs that have not been film jobs, like I will be navigating through LinkedIn to stalk this person or to contact this person to be like, yo, can you give my company money so that you can invest in our youth project or this project or that project? I think when it's your own stuff, there's a level of sensitivity that you get to it because it's kind of like you really, 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 really want it. And when you don't get it, the loss feels like someone's ripped out your heart. And I've had so many losses, which have kind of made me the person that I am today. But at the same time, I'm having this conversation with you now, and I can reflectively look back and think like I spent most of my 20s probably mad because I was like, I left school, I got decent grades, they want the best, but the grades that I excelled in were kind of my creative subjects. And I went to uni and I was like, nah, I need to bang this out. And I left uni with 2 A's and a C. I went to uni. I hated uni, but I banged it out. First in the family to get a degree. So when I had this kind of boom, 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 I need boom, 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 and then I left uni, and in those days, no one gave you employability sessions about how to get into film and TV. It's like you're starting backwards again.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult, and it's mad because when I got into teaching, especially when I was teaching film, I'm then telling these kids, use your Instagram to do this, do that, holler at this person, slide in this person's DM, and at the moment I mentor a couple of students from Ravensbourne on their Seeds project, and it's just mad, and I love giving back, but it's just beautiful to see how they're thinking now, and I'm this way now at my age, and they're like literally 10 years younger,
Yeah.
and they're already thinking about where do I get the money from, and they're like 23, 24, and they're already thinking about how they're going to navigate, and it's just beautiful to see, man.
No, I totally get that because I think you just have to use everything to your
Yeah.
advantage. Because look, like you said, you didn't even have an agent before, and now look,
And
you
now
get
look, yeah.
yeah,
And
like
that's the thing
even
as well, because
yeah,
even when you have an agent, I think people think, oh, I remember when I won my 2 Buff Awards, I was writing to agents for fun. Like, this is who I am. I'm an award-winning script. That accolade don't mean nothing, love, unless
yeah,
you've got your, unless you've got your first writing credit.
yeah,
And that was a hard pill to swallow because when you're working or trying to launch stuff like Suffering, as soon as people see like, oh, she's an award-winning writer, they want to work with you because she's won awards, which means there's a level of status. And we did that a lot in terms of building that. And then when you look at having an agent, you think like having an agent is the be all and end all, and it's like, no, that agent comes in handy when it comes to negotiating contracts and making sure
yeah,
people don't take advantage of you. But you still have to almost act like you don't have it, and you still have to continue to fight for those job opportunities. And I think that's a difficult thing, especially when you see a lot of roles that are advertised as entry level, but they're not really entry level. Because to you and me, entry level is you ain't got no experience and you want to learn. But to them, entry level is you've probably done a couple of schemes and you probably got on this and you probably got on that, so you're in.
yeah.
And I think that's the really difficult thing that people don't understand or know. And I only know that because I've been through that process.
But it's also like sometimes like when I would be doing work experience at production companies, and then they would say, oh, there's this scheme, I can recommend you, I can put your name down, blah blah blah. That's just how it is. Like this industry is just about who you know,
Who
and
you
that's
know.
it. If you didn't know that BAFTA award-winning producer, then it's like who knows what would have happened. You're still trying to
Exactly.
scratch the surface, because that's like the pilot we did for Talia Versus. Like that came out, the reaction was mad.
It was fantastic. I
Thank
loved
you.
it.
And I can't even say too much about what's happening now. But all I know is once you have that quality work and you pull it out and the right eye see it, there we go. And that's what we
You,
wanted to
you
happen.
know what I remember after I watched it, I was saying to Christian, and I was like, you know what I love about Kashif? And he was like, what? And I said, he has got a particular style. In that sense, you remind me of Ryan Murphy. Like Ryan Murphy picks particular there's particular stuff that he produces and that he kind of creates. You're gonna have black characters, you're gonna have characters from the LGBTQ community, and it's gonna be a fantastic story. And what I love about you is you really are trying to make the UK catch up and appreciate black culture, and it just shows in the stuff that you create and the stories that you tell and the content that you make, and you don't drift away from that. And I love that. I really love that about what you do, because in my head I'm like, mate, when this time comes and he's in this big platform position, and then I'm in a position, I'm just going to drop him a few scripts and be like, what are you saying? You know? And it's, I love that. And I love that because that gives me hope. It's difficult because once you're in TV and then you understand the ins and outs of it, like, it's difficult. It still sometimes feels like that one person in, that one person out. As a woman, being a black woman, there's always going to be that, you know, and obviously I'm not no actress, I'm not trying to be an actress, but you're always going to be compared to Michaela Cole because Michaela Cole's the one that's doing it at the moment. And it's just so unfair because there's so many women out there from different backgrounds who have fantastic stories to tell, but it's so difficult to get those stories on screen when you're a person of colour, and making people understand that, you know, not every person of colour was raised on a cancer estate or had some kind of horrible background which has led to why they've turned to crime. And you know, but we don't, that it's almost like what Charlemagne says about the lies more entertaining than the truth. That narrative that's dragged and dropped on us is probably more entertaining than the truth. And I think for me, I've had to take a step back because one of my biggest things is I'm tired of this black suffering narrative. Like, I think
and I'm tired of it. Trauma
all the time.
Critical acclaim, like, please.
Yeah, and I can't take it. I just can't. Like, I think one day I'm gonna have kids, especially if I have a son. Like, I want to look at, like, I want him to look at the way I looked at Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and be like, boom, like, and that's what I want. And I think it's difficult because when you're a writer and you're not in a position where you've got acclaim yet, you compromise on certain things, and that's another thing that I've had to learn how to do is say no. And that's difficult because you're like, you don't want the opportunity taken away from you, but at the same time, if I don't want this person to be a drug dealer, or if this person is a drug dealer, fine, but they're not going to be black. They're not going to be black, innit? Because I've seen that. I don't want to see it again, and I don't want to be responsible for that. And I think for me, that's kind of where my heart is at the moment. And I remember I've had loads of people say to me that the interesting thing about you is the stuff that I write, you would never think a black woman wrote it. In some respects, that's a compliment, but at the same time, it's like, we need to be able to get to a space where it's like, yeah, that was written by a woman, and yeah, that was written by a black woman, but more importantly, it was just a good story.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're just not there yet.
Yeah, but I think it's a good point what you just made about how they wouldn't know, oh, this was written by a black woman, but it's like black people have had to write characters, non-black, characters for their whole career. So it's like they know how to adapt their writing skills because we've grown up having to watch loads of different characters who don't look like us on screen all the time. So that's why in the reverse, when we're saying about why these shows where they want to talk about black issues or whatever issues out there, you need to have black people on the writing stuff because it's not going to be authentic, especially when you're not connecting with something. So it's like when people sometimes are doing stuff about police brutality or Black Lives Matter or whatever, it just goes down the wrong route, or Black Twitter are dragging them. It's because you've not done like the research, you've not actually spoken to people who it directly affects. So that's where it's different. But I don't know, because if you've grown up watching Sex and the City, cool, you're gonna know how to write for white women. Do you get what I mean? How many people are watching Insecure, like, who are non-black and really understanding it, and then could understand how to then write for a black female audience?
And that's what's interesting that you said. I'm glad you said that, because I think one thing that I'm learning just from feedback that I've gotten recently from different people is I've realized, and it's been a big pill for me to swallow, a lot of the time, especially when I'm writing female characters, every script that I always write, the lead is always going to be a person of color. Whether it's a woman or a man, I'll always mix it up, but one of them will always be black, because I'm for my people. But I've realized, just in terms of how the emotions of black characters, so a lot of the time I'll put myself in a situation and I'll be like, how will me and my friends respond to that? And then we'll respond in whatever way we will respond. But what's interesting is when people read that, the first reaction they say is, your character's a bit cold, or your character seems very like, you know, standoffish, or your character is too vocal, or your character is a bit too I can't root for her. And it's like, I've realized through that, the way me, just as a Black woman, and my friends and my mother and my grandmother and a lot of people that I know, men and women, we express ourselves very differently. And it's quite interesting because when you're writing, you still have to kind of make these characters likable. And in your head, this person's reaction to something is normal because that's how you would react, or your friend, or, but sometimes when that's read by other people, they're like, no, it's too harsh. Like, we need to root for her. We need to like her. We don't like her. What? Because she's strong, she's independent, and she says it how it is. Kind of like, yes, like, oh, okay. So I'm learning to have to kind of reel in emotion and imagine, make my characters likable. And in my mind, I'm like, if I was to send this to anyone else, they would be like rooting, like, yeah, but then it's how I see it versus these people that are putting money into me to write. They see it differently. So I'm getting paid a check, I need to do the job. And that is difficult as well.
I find that interesting because I always, like, because I did so much traveling in 2019 to like different film festivals, particularly in America, and just seeing how the UK industry and the US industry work is very different. So I'm not surprised by that feedback you've got, because I think in the UK, a lot of the shows or films, the characters are likable in some sort of dimension. So they have to be, that's just how UK TV is. I've noticed in America, I'd say in the last probably like 10 years, I wouldn't say the lead character isn't always the fan bases like they really like the most. For example, let's say Shonda Rhimes, for example, all of her shows with the leads, like with Ellen Pompeo, Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, etc. They're all unlikable people, but people, the audiences and the fan bases still rooted for their character and they liked, however, their dynamic with the other characters on the show. That's what I noticed. So like people loved when Viola Davis, Annalise Keaton would just let's ruthlessly just attack anybody, right? People loved how Kerry Washington was just straight to the point, didn't play games. Ellen Pompeo's like there's all, they loved her, what's her character's name, Meredith's love story, but then also she's not very likable. So I think it just is different. Even in like Power, Ghost, he was a gangster. Do you get what I mean? And then his son, who everybody found hella annoying, he ended up killing his dad. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched Power, but yeah. I didn't even watch Power, but I knew that.
You know, yeah. But that's the interesting thing, because I think that, and that's why I always go back to the British Urban Film Festival, because when I wrote Sarah White and the Seven Socialites, it's American, it's based in America. These are socialites that live in LA that have all committed like crazy crimes, all just to be popular and get Twitter followers. And I wrote Bosch to say, you know, I can write UK. But I've always been told, just from stuff that I've read, and people have, you know, whether it's actors or friends, or have always said, Sin, like, you need to go America because your writer's voice is, it fits that. And I remember when I was writing F Happy Endings for screenwriting, and what I always loved about that experience is you'll never look and think, my script editors were like two men who were like a lot older, but when I explained the Black experience, they took it on and they were able to pull it out of me, even when I would hold back. And I remember there was this one thing where she says MF, like mother beep, yeah? And I said, and I had it in, and they were like, yeah, it's fantastic, it's fantastic. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to take it out. And they were like, why? And I was like, because whenever you ever watch a UK show where someone says mother, it's like an American thing. You can watch Insecure and they can say B, like B, you know. But you in UK, we're very like reserved. We don't talk like that. And I've had to kind of adapt that into my writing, which has been difficult, because I've written something recently which I'm working on called Last Beast Standing, and it kind of deals with mental health and comedy. And the conversations that they're having fluently, again, it feels very much like insecure where they're talking to each other. Then I'm like, you can't really call her that because we wouldn't say that. Like, you know, and it's, it's your P's and Q's. It's your P's and Q's when it comes to writing. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, you're taking the fun out of the dialogue, man. But it's all a part of the learning process. And I get that.
I get that, because like we don't really go around, British people don't really go around saying like mother F. Like it's more of an American thing.
It's definitely an American
thing. And then as a Black British person, I don't really say the N word. I know there's other Black Brits who do, but like in Insecure, you hear those two words like all the time. I mean, they'll say bitch and all that stuff, and it's like cool. But yeah, I totally get that. But Sinitta, I feel like you've answered like all of my
sorry
questions
I just spoke at you.
But it was great, honestly. I think if people listening aren't inspired by what you said, then I don't know what, because it's great to see your journey and where you are now. Please let me know when the premiere's there. I want to come and see the show.
Yes, of course. Once it gets greenlit, God willing, speaking that into existence now. I need another check.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you on socials? Like, where can they find you?
God, where can people find me? I wouldn't say Facebook, Twitter, Sin1986. Same for Instagram at Sin1986. I have my website, www.sinittamonero.com. More or less, if you Google me, you can kind of find me, not in an egotistical way, just in my face is everywhere. It's just I still struggle to adjust with that, trying to have that level of control. That's what's happening at the moment. I'm just writing away, working on this and working on this, like I said, this writer's room that I've got next week, and just waiting, actually working with Christian on a BFI application. We're just waiting to hear back from, and that's something that I'm quite proud of, because I wrote a short film about boxing, and it was just to say girls can write about boxing. Like, oh God, it took me forever, but I did it. And yeah, that's kind of where you can find me. And I'm always open. Like, I love meeting new people and talking to people and giving advice if I can, which I seem to be doing quite a lot with a lot of people, which is fun. And I just want to meet more people, especially creatives. We're hard to come by.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm always in people's DMs. So I do it. Honestly, get into the DMs. That's like, don't just follow them on Twitter and Instagram. DM them.
DM them, and know exactly, and know what you want to say. That producer that I DM'd, like, he got back to me within an hour, and I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my, like, this was big. And I was just like, oh my God. And I asked him so many questions, he couldn't believe it. But it's kind of getting that in and kind of understanding the process. Because for me as well, obviously anyone that's listening to this, it's about understanding the writer's process. And no one ever tells you that. Obviously, when you're producing content by yourself, you do it by your own terms and conditions. But when you're writing for other people, you work in TV. That stuff can be in development for all 2 to 10 years. Me, I've got things to do, man. I'm like, I can't be walking red carpet with white hair by the time I make my first, you know. Exactly. But you have to appreciate the patience of that, but keep yourself going by working on other stuff at the same time. And obviously, I suppose what I've learned just through this COVID time more than anything is taking time for yourself, and taking those breaks away from it, because you can get so caught up in what everyone else is doing. Because as fantastic as social media is, the element of everyone bragging about their lifestyles and their Range Rovers and how much money that they're earning can really impact your mental health if you're not in a good place. And I think that is also important, just to be able to kind of take care and be kind to yourself. And I've had to adjust to learning how to be kind to myself through all the years of rejection and not giving up. And it will happen. I can't tell you when, but when you're on the path, you're on the path.
I agree. It's like someone said that, and someone else who I interviewed, and she said the same thing about she had to stop comparing herself to other people. And it's the truth. Like, comparison is the thief of joy. I have to remind myself that all the time. Like, I can't compare myself to what they're doing. That's their journey. That's their path. I focus on myself, and that's that.
And it's very easy to do. It's when you look at people, especially when you're following creatives and people are churning out content and doing things that you want to do, but you can't do it because you know you're doing X, Y, and Z. It can take a toll, because you're just like, oh, what can I? But then again, it's like everything within its time and not before. And I'm learning that each time, and it grates on me, but I'm having to learn that all the time.
Exactly. And I forgot, we actually did work together briefly on Hello. No, what's it called? Hi, John. Yeah. And I was
Yes,
talking to
hi John.
Jordan. When did I speak to Jordan? I spoke to Jordan last week and it's almost done, apparently, the grading, all that stuff. So it'd be
Yes.
good to finally see that short film
Yeah, it
back
would
in
be. It would
late
be.
2019. So yeah, so that'd be good to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because that's the last. Again, that's the last short that I've worked on, and it's that thing as well of like you want to like, for example, I write, I produce, and I direct. I would say out of the three, my write, I'm known as a writer. That's,
Mhm.
you know, that's what gives me bread and butter. I produce a lot of content, and I'm trying to get to that place where I feel comfortable enough to say like, yes, I'm a director. I'm not there yet. Like I'm there
Yeah.
where I'm saying to you like, yeah, I'm directing stuff, but I don't feel not necessarily confident. I just don't feel as in terms of like my list of strengths, that's as high
Mhm.
up as, for example, writing and producing, because I'm a control freak, and when I produce stuff I need to be in control of it.
Oh, I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I need
you
to
know
get
how
into
it
writing
goes.
again anyway. Because yeah, I can't just be
You do.
producing or exec
You can't
producing
be
everyone
producing all this
else's.
black content and
No,
not be putting
exactly.
more
And
of your own stuff out.
it's gonna stifle me anyway because it- I can produce like I've everyone always tells me I'm known as like I get shit done and I like that. I like that reputation. I do. But like I need to start writing because it's gonna if I don't start writing again, I'm only gonna be stagnant for a certain point. So I need to like start doing that again. But I will. But anyway, we're running out of time.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining
Nice.
me.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for listening. Follow me on social media at Kashif Booth or Kashif Booth Entertainment or the Kashif Booth podcast. And stay tuned for new episodes coming soon.